Gaming Bolt presents 15 games that launched in a broken state. In the age of patches and online connectivity, some games launch unfinished, but this also means that some games launch in a less than desirable state, sometimes even being plain bad. Here are the top 15 games that were completely broken at launch. Assassin's Creed Unity. Assassin's Creed Unity has gone down in the records of video game history thanks to its greatly mismanaged launch. The entire game was filled with bugs and glitches, most of which were hilarious at first glance. Characters' faces disappearing and NPCs floating in mid-air were a few of the standouts, but the frame rate dropped considerably and it rendered what should have been a fun romp through the French Revolution into a frustrating challenge. Halo: The Master Chief Collection. Multiplayer has defined the Halo series for years. Each new iteration adds new maps, mechanics, and modes, making the experience feel fresh again. The Master Chief Collection took all 4 main games and put them into one package, with all 4 campaigns and multiplayer suites included. The only problem was that the multiplayer modes didn't work at launch and wouldn't work for many months. The title was defined by its multiplayer, but not because of how well it was executed. Drive Club. After months of delays and plenty of talk about just how good Drive Club would be when it finally hit, its launch could have benefited from being pushed back even further. Every possible problem that could have surfaced did. The issues with Drive Club went further than its online connections and led to the closure of the game's developer. Battlefield 4. Battlefield 4 was a buggy mess from the get-go. Save files were repeatedly deleted, matches wouldn't start, and when matches did connect, they were riddled with bugs and connectivity issues. It was a beautiful looking game with a lot of holes in its design. While the multiplayer was fantastic, the campaign was unremarkable, so having to play it multiple times because of lost saves was not worth it. Batman: Arkham Knight PC. On consoles, Batman: Arkham Knight had a great launch. PC was a little bit of a different story. The entire game was unresponsive, barely ran, and did not live up to the series' name in any way. It was later fixed, but it took many months and the original bad blood was never entirely cleaned up. It also led to Warner Bros. Offering refunds on the title, meaning many PC players never got to experience this fantastic game. Diablo 3. Diablo 3 is another game that insisted on being connected to the internet at all times. The result was a launch day that was met with a lot of anger and frustration from players when they couldn't even play the game they had spent years waiting to get their hands on. The problems did get ironed out, leaving the launch troubles to turn into memes, as is the cycle of life on the internet. No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky was said by many to be the last game you would ever need to play due to its massive world and the numerous vocations you can pursue. Instead, what players got at launch was an underwhelming survival game without many of the features that had been promised and systems that could be easily manipulated. SimCity 2013. When you launch a game that requires constant internet connection, it's important to ensure that the servers can back it up. SimCity didn't get that memo apparently, locking most of its players out of the game. On top of that, even if you could start a campaign, it didn't work as intended, leading to the series being put on ice. Street Fighter V. Not only did Street Fighter V launch without most of its features, those that were included didn't work as they were supposed to. The network features barely connected, making online play impossible, and the lack of variety in those modes meant that there was very little to do other than online. Luckily, the fighting was the only decent thing in the package, so players could at least knock out a couple of combos. Grand Theft Auto Online, PS3 and Xbox 360. Grand Theft Auto Online launched a full month after GTA 5 hit shelves, but that didn't mean it had to work. The servers were fried for the first couple of days, letting very few people gallivant through its wide open world. For a game that hinged on connecting to the internet, not doing so was a huge loss, especially at launch. Skyrim, PS3 and Xbox 360. When Skyrim was initially released for the PS3 and the Xbox 360, the systems weren't equipped to deal with the game. Its size and how much the world could change was a lot to process, not to mention how seriously buggy and glitchy they were on top of everything else. While the 360 version slowly got better, Skyrim on the PS3 never fully recovered. Mighty No. 9. Since Capcom isn't putting a lot of time into developing a new Mega Man game, Mighty No. 9 seemed like the next best thing. The game finally launched after years of development, and it fell completely flat. The game was as lackluster as they come, not to mention the glitches and hindrances that plagued the game. The game never got much better, with the game's creator saying fans should be thankful for what they got. It's true what they say, a bad game is bad forever, especially when you don't patch it. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. After years of anticipation, the 5th entry in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series fumbled its landing. The game's mechanics were irreparably broken, the online was barely functional, and everything clipped and glitched through everything else. It was a resounding disappointment. It slowly improved, but the initial reception turned off many potential skaters. Aliens Colonial Marines. Aliens Colonial Marines had a lot of promise. Instead, it ended up being a mediocre shooter that played as bad as it looked. The game did not play well at all, and that was on top of bad design and poor AI. Everything about it felt rough and unfinished, which was not the Aliens experience fans were hoping for. Test Drive Unlimited 2. Racing games need to have solid mechanics so that players can drift and draft precisely and use their driving skills to overcome their competition. Sadly, Test Drive Unlimited 2's launch left much to be desired. The servers and the game did not work as intended, making it less than a smooth experience on the roads and off. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.